Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth day of the online conference that we are doing on the circular bioeconomy. Glad to see several of you coming back, and I'm hoping that today's conversations will be, actually, I won't say I'm hoping, I'm pretty sure today's conversations, the three speakers we have today are going to be as interesting as we've had on the first 3 days. A very quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had three sessions. One, actually, the theme for yesterday was how do you look at circularity and circularity issues specifically from a perspective of a community or a civic body like a town or a city or a municipal corporation. How does one work with government bodies at that level? And what are the kind of successful examples we have seen where entrepreneurs or change makers have worked with local governments and local government officers to bring in some degree of circularity in what's happening, because we all know that the urban India is generating huge amounts of waste and so on and so forth. So we had Manisha Seth yesterday, who was the first speaker. She spoke about many things that she's been doing over the last 20 odd years. But the thing that where we asked her to focus on was the last couple of years, particularly in Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, Mumbai, Thane municipal corporations, where she and her team had worked on the campaign called Punaravartan, which was to reclaim the flowers and the clay that happens in the Ganesh Visarjan. Ganesh Chaturthi is a huge, very, very popular, very big festival in these parts of the country, and there's a lot of wastage that gets generated in that process. Murtis are, Visarjan happens, and then the clay and the water bodies get polluted, etc. And yesterday we learned about some very interesting ways in which she and her team had worked with all these municipal corporations, and 76 tons of clay were recovered through that process. And obviously there is a lot more that is possible, which will go on in the future as well. In the second speakers, we had actually two people coming in and talking. They were from Rajguru Nagar, which is a town not very far from Pune, and where three organizations, one entrepreneur, Mahesh Shinde, who had developed expertise in using the black soldier fly for decomposing wet waste. Then Vignan Ashram, which was the knowledge partner where he actually learned all these technologies, and the civic authority of Rajguru Nagar Municipal Council, they came together and they have set up a wet waste processing plant. On a daily basis, 10 tons of wet waste is collected. The facility that is there today is processing about close to 3 tons per day, and it's hopefully going to go up. And we saw the circularity explained in very wonderfully by Mahesh yesterday when he spoke about how the larva grows in the wet waste, and then becomes a source of protein and fat for poultry, fish, and so on and so forth, and comes back to us as food, and then goes back as food waste, and essentially completing the cycle, so to speak. So we had two people talking about circularity at the civic level. And then we had Ram Subramaniam, who has worked again many, many years in this space, talking about the need of the hour, which is the green skilling and the scope that exists with that, and how can we develop capacities of doing skill building in the green sector, green economy sector, and what can be done. So and also a little bit about the green entrepreneurship that is going on and so on. So though that was a theme for yesterday, today we have three rather disjoint sometimes, but also very interesting three speakers We will start first with Govind Sonavane. Govind Sonavane will be followed. Govind Sonavane is a young rural entrepreneur from Jalgaon. Uh, if after Govind has spoken about his work on the developing a low cost biochar making machine, we will talk to Joy Daniel, who is joining us from Aurangabad, which is now renamed as Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. Uh, he's going to talk about a very interesting thing that he has been driving called the accelerating circular rural economy. We'll try and understand. Many of us have been involved in rural development and so on. So we'll try and understand that and have a conversation with Joy on that. And finally, we have Maya D'Souza, who's going to join in around 6:45 or so. She's based in Goa, and she's been one of the co-authors of a white paper that came out last year on the circular bioeconomy, and with a particular focus on the global south. And she's also a co-founder of a very interesting biomaterials lab, which is based in Panji, Goa. So these are the three speakers for today. And I'm pretty sure all of you will enjoy the conversations. And as always, ask questions and have interactions with the speakers that we have. So I invite Govind. Govind, come online, please. I would love to uh, get you to be the first speaker. So a quick introduction of Govind before he takes on. So when we had started looking for who's doing work, who's doing what kind of work in the circular bioeconomy space. We were talking to different people saying that tell us, introduce us to who do you know? And one conversation led to another, and I ended up speaking with Govind. Govind is a young, as you can see, he's a young man based in Jalgaon, which is in Maharashtra, northern Maharashtra. And he's a entrepreneur, has been working since the last 5-7 years, doing fabrications, developing farm equipment and so on. And interestingly, he's one of his new things that he has developed is a low cost biochar maker from Agri Waste. In fact, actually, Govind's company is also called Agri Waste Private Limited. So he has a focus on using agri waste as not as a waste but as an input to create something more valuable. And uh, given that he's been an entrepreneur and he's doing something interesting, I thought this is a good platform for us to get Govind to talk about what he's done and what his journey has been like, and then have a conversation. Govind, आपके ऊपर, ये up to you. आप लीजिए.
अ, आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। पहले मेरा नाम गोविंद सोनवने और मैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट जलगांव से हूँ, महाराष्ट्र से ही। और एक्चुअली मेरा क्वालिफिकेशन बताऊँ तो एमएससी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स है। और इससे पहले मैं आपको मेरा थोड़ा जर्नी के बारे में बता सकता हूँ कि कैसे मैंने बिजनेस में एक्चुअली स्टार्ट किया। पहले मैं 2013 पास आउट हूँ एमएससी, और उसके बाद में मैं पूना में एज अ जूनियर इंजीनियर के तौर पे फिनोलेक्स कंपनी में काम किया मैंने इन आर एंड डी में। और वहाँ से जॉब करते करते मेरे माइंड में आया कि मैं यदि कंपनी को कमा के दे सकता हूँ तो मैं क्यों बिजनेस नहीं स्टार्ट कर सकता खुद से। तो इससे मैंने 2015 में एक्चुअली जॉब वहाँ से ड्रॉप आउट कर दिया, और जॉब ड्रॉप आउट करने के बाद मैं गाँव आया एक्चुअली। और गांव में आने के बाद मैंने वहाँ पे सीएपीएल बल्ब और मोबाइल चार्जर इनका सर्किट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टार्ट किया। और उसके बाद में मुझे लोन्स वगैरह मिला, 5 लाख का लोन भी लिया मैंने। लेकिन सडनली उसमें मुझे लॉस हो गया बिजनेस में। तो लॉस होने के कारण से मैंने उसी बिजनेस को छोड़ के इंसेंस स्टिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में स्टार्ट किया, अगरबत्ती। तो 2017 में मैंने अगरबत्ती के बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया। और अगरबत्ती में स्टार्ट करने के बाद एक्चुअली मुझे चारकोल, जो वुड चारकोल बोला जाता है, तो वुड चारकोल की दिक्कत आने लगी। तो दिक्कत माने तो कि जो अगरबत्ती आती है आधी जलते जलते कभी कभी बुझ जाती थी। तो प्रॉब्लम था वुड चारकोल का। तो फिर मन में मेरा आइडिया आया 2020 में कि एग्रीकल्चर में जो भी वेस्ट पड़ा हुआ है क्रॉप रेसिड्यूस, उसे क्रॉप रेसिड्यूस को मैं आराम से बायोचार में या चारकोल में यदि कन्वर्ट कर पाऊँ तो उसी को मैं एक्चुअली अगरबत्ती में इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकता हूँ और क्वालिटी भी बढ़ा सकता हूँ। तो जैसे मनवीर सिंह चड्ढा है, जो आईआईटी मंडी के एज वहाँ पे इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर में सीईओ थे। तो उनकी मुलाकात मेरी एक्चुअली डिस्ट्रिक्ट जलगांव में हुई। तो इन्होंने मुझे बताया कि गोविंद, तू अगरबत्ती में जो काम एक्चुअली अभी कर रहा है फिलहाल, तो वो तेरा मेन बिजनेस नहीं है। मेन बिजनेस तो यदि बायोचार मशीन के ऊपर फोकस करेगा तो एज वेल एज आपके थ्रू आप बायोचार मशीन बेचेंगे, या फिर किसान भी उसको एज अ फर्टिलाइजर के तौर पे अपने खेत में इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, और अगरबत्ती में भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, या कोई उसी बायोचार से ब्रिकेट्स वगैरह बना सकते हैं, होटल इंडस्ट्री में दे सकते हैं। तो इन्होंने, मनवीर सिंह चड्ढा जो है, उन्होंने मुझे जी एक्चुअली बिजनेस के बारे में बताया। और उन्होंने एक स्किल मेरे अंदर देखा, जो कि जो भी मैं एक्चुअली मशीन कोई हो, तो उस मशीन को एक्चुअली मैं डेवलप कर सकता हूँ यदि कोई प्रॉब्लम हो तो। वही एक्चुअली उनकी बात में सुन के मैंने सुना कि सही है, क्योंकि अगरबत्ती में बेचता रहूंगा, सेल करता रहूंगा, तो मुझे ग्रोथ नहीं मिलेंगी। और जो मुझे में एक्चुअली हुनर है, स्किल है, तो उस स्किल को मैं एक्चुअली इंप्लीमेंट करके आगे नहीं बढ़ सकता। तो उनकी बात मैंने मन में रख के एक्चुअली 2022 में एग्री वेस्ट प्राइवेट लिमिटेड करके कंपनी स्थापित की। और स्थापित करने के बाद फिर उन्होंने मुझे फंड भी दिलाया, जो कि केसिल इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर में भी मैं वहाँ पे एक्चुअली ज्वाइंट हुआ, नॉर्थ महाराष्ट्र यूनिवर्सिटी में। फिर 80,000 का फंड वहाँ से मुझे प्राप्त होता, और प्राप्त होने के बाद एक्चुअली फिर मेरी जर्नी वहाँ से स्टार्ट हुई। तो मैंने देखा एक्चुअली कि अपनी इंडिया में या एज वेल एज अनदर यदि कंट्री में देखा जाए उस तरह से, तो एग्रीकल्चर कचरा बहुत बड़े पैमाने के ऊपर उपलब्ध है, और उसे जला जाता है, पोल्यूशन भी होता है। और आप सभी भी देख सकते हो कि प्रॉब्लम इतना बड़ा है कि मेरे जैसे यदि 100 कंपनी भी यदि इस बिजनेस में आए एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने के लिए, तो ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं हो पाएगा। तो इसलिए मैंने भी सोचा कि लो कॉस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी या लो कॉस्ट मशीन यदि बनाया जाए, कि जो किसान हो या स्मॉल इंटरप्रेन्योर हो या स्मॉल बिजनेसमैन हो, जो कि वो परचेस कर पाए और अफोर्ड कर पाए, जिससे कि उनका बिजनेस स्टार्ट कर पाए। तो मैं आपको मेरे प्रेजेंटेशन यहाँ पे दिखाना चाहता हूँ किस तरह से मैंने शुरुआत की। सर एक्चुअली मैं
हाँ
प्रेजेंटेशन मेरा दिख रहा है सर?
हाँ, अभी दिख रहा है, अभी दिख रहा है।
ओके ओके ओके। तो आप ये देख सकते हो कि मेरे कंपनी का नाम एग्रीवेस्ट प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है। और उसके बारे में एक्चुअली मैं कंपनी में मैं हूँ, और मेरी वाइफ, दो फाउंडर हो, और दो फाउंडर होने के बाद हमने कंपनी स्थापित की। तो आप देख सकते हो कि यहाँ पे जो एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट है, अ, अभी कॉर्न का हमारे तरफ मक्की का भुट्टा बड़े पैमाने के ऊपर होता है, और कपास की डंठल। तो उससे मैंने एक्चुअली कॉर्न काप को बायोचार में कन्वर्ट किया। और ये देख सकते हो आप, पहला प्रोटोटाइप जो था, मेरा फर्स्ट प्रोटोटाइप एक 200 लीटर का मैं ड्रम लिया था छोटा, जिसमें कि एक्चुअली प्रोसेस वगैरह करके उससे बायोचार बनाते थे। और यदि सेकंड, ये जो आप सेकंड इमेज देख सकते हो, और थर्ड, तो इसे हमने अच्छी तरह से उसे कन्वर्ट किया और मॉडिफाइड किया, जिससे कि उसमें अच्छे पैमाने के ऊपर भी क्रॉप रेसिड्यूज बैठ पाए, और उसका प्रोसेस अच्छी तरह से हो पाए। तो इस तरह से करते करते मैंने आईआईटी दिल्ली, वहाँ पे भी कंपटीशन था, और वहाँ पे 600 प्लस एक्चुअली स्टार्टअप आए हुए थे। तो लेकिन मैंने भी हिम्मत की कि चलो ठीक है, मैं भी यहाँ पे प्रेजेंटेशन दे के देखता हूँ, यदि सिलेक्शन होता तो अच्छा, नहीं हुआ तो फिर भी खुद मैं मॉडिफाइड कर सकता हूँ। तो वहाँ पे प्रेजेंटेशन दिया आईआईटी दिल्ली में, तो वहाँ पे भी मेरा टॉप 10 में सिलेक्शन हुआ। वहाँ से भी एक्चुअली मुझे फंड मिला। तो ये आप देख सकते हो, जैसे कि अभी अभी जो मशीन्स अवेलेबल है अपनी इंडिया में बायोचार की, तो उनकी कॉस्टिंग जो स्टार्टिंग होती है अराउंड, तो 4 लाख 5 लाख से होती है। आप फर्स्ट इमेज में देख सकते हो कि जो फर्स्ट इमेज इस तरह से अवेलेबल है बायोचार मशीन। तो और उसमें प्रोसेस टाइम भी थोड़ा ज़्यादा लगता है। तो यही मेरा मॉडल है कि जो यदि ब्रांचेस वगैरह हो पेड़ों की, या फिर क्रॉप रेसिड्यूज हो, जो कि 30 या 50 केजी बैठ सकता है, और प्रोसेस टाइम अराउंड 20 या 30 मिनट्स के अंदर प्रोसेस होकर आपको बायोचार उससे प्राप्त हो जाएगा। तो इस तरह से मैंने यहाँ पे कंपेरिजन किया था कि इजी टू कैरी है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की ज़रूरत नहीं है, और स्किल की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है, और मेंटेनेंस इसमें नहीं है। तो उसके बाद में, और यहाँ पे मेजर एप्लीकेशन भी है बायोचार के, किस तरह से आप उसे थोड़ा प्रोसेस करके अलग अलग फील्ड में इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो। तो मैंने कुछ एनजीओज है, सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप, जैसे कि अभी छत्तीसगढ़ में भी हमने ट्रेनिंग दिया था 3 साल पहले, बालोद जिला में। वहाँ पे बायोचार बना के उनसे अगरबत्तियां वगैरह बनाई थी लेडीज ने। और उसके बाद में छिड़िया गांव पड़ता है वहाँ पे भी हमने अगरबत्ती की 20 मशीन्स प्रोवाइड की थी। और उनका भी हमने एक्चुअली बाय बैक का एग्रीमेंट करके दिया था वहाँ के नजदीक के कंपनी को, जिससे कि वो उनको मजदूरी के हिसाब से बना के दे अगरबत्ती। और उनको भी उसमें लगभग 15-16 रुपए पर केजी के हिसाब से मार्जिन मिलता है अभी। ये देख सकते हो आप यहाँ पे अगरबत्ती एक्चुअली इस तरह से। और एक्चुअली मेरा कुछ अवार्ड्स वगैरह है जो कि मैंने कंपटीशन में दिया था। तो जिस तरह से मुझे अवार्ड्स भी यहाँ पे मिले हुए। और आप देख सकते हो इस तरह से शार्क टैंक में भी गया था फर्स्ट सीजन में, नेक्सस इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर वहाँ भी प्रेजेंटेशन दिया था। और एक कुछ अवार्ड्स वगैरह। तो अभी एक्चुअली मैं जो काम कर रहा हूँ अभी मैं जो काम कर रहा हूँ फैब्रिकेशन के ऊपर काम कर रहा हूँ। और अभी 4 साल हुए मेरे कंपनी को। तो मेरा ध्येय वही है कि फंड के, यदि फंड मिलता तो बेहतरीन है, नहीं फंड मिलता, जो मैं मशीन डेवलप करूंगा वही मशीन में एक्चुअली रीसेल करके सेल करके उनसे मैं पैसे कमा सकता हूँ। और उसी पैसे को मैं मेरे बिजनेस में रीयूज करके वही कंपनी को मैं ग्रोथ कर सकता हूँ। तो इस तरह से अभी मेरा चल रहा है। और इस तरह से अभी मुझे अराउंड मैंने 20 मशीन सेलिंग की हुई है बायोचार की। और अभी मुझे उड़ीसा से 80 मशीन का भी ऑर्डर मिला हुआ है, जो कि लो कॉस्ट मशीन है। लेकिन अभी भारत सरकार ने भी 2026 में बायोचार की पॉलिसी लॉन्च की हुई है। तो उसके दरम्यान अभी मुझे संस्थाओं से भी ऑर्डर मिलने स्टार्ट हो चुके हैं बायोचार की। और उसके साथ में मैं वर्मी कंपोस्ट सिविंग मशीन जो आती है, जो कि बायो किसान तो एक्चुअली स्टार्ट करता है बिजनेस वर्मी कंपोस्ट का, लेकिन उनका रेट भी महंगा होता है सीविंग मशीन का। तो वही सीविंग मशीन भी मैं छोटे पैमाने को स्लो कॉस्ट बना के अच्छी क्वालिटी प्रोवाइड करके ऑल इंडिया भी वो भी मैं मशीन एक्चुअली बेच रहा हूँ। जैसे अभी पुणे में भी दिया है, उड़ीसा है, हैदराबाद है, कर्नाटक है। तो ऑल इंडिया एक्चुअल में मशीन्स वगैरह बना रहा हूँ। तो यहाँ पे मेरा यही कहना है कि एक मशीन के ऊपर मैं डिपेंड तो नहीं हूँ, लेकिन जहाँ पे एग्रीकल्चर के रिलेटेड जो भी मशीन्स अवेलेबल है, और जितने से जितना मैं सस्ता मशीन उनको अफोर्ड करके दे सकता हूँ आने जो भी कोई कस्टमर से, तो इनको इनकी अफोर्डेबल होंगी तो उनको भी मशीन मिलेगा और मुझे भी उसमें काम मिलेगा। और काम मिलेगा तो मुझे पैसा आएगा तो इसी बिजनेस को मैं यूज कर सकता हूँ। तो थोड़ा मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ एक्चुअली मेरी जो बैकग्राउंड मैंने बताया था सर को भी, मेरा बैकग्राउंड जो एक्चुअली लोअर क्लास फैमिली से आता है। लेकिन फिर भी मैंने बिजनेस में एक्चुअली स्टार्ट किया, लॉस हुआ, लेकिन फिर भी मैं खड़ा रहा। और खड़े होने के बावजूद अभी 4 साल के अंदर मैंने मेरी खुद की कंपनी की जगह भुसावल में 8,600 स्क्वायर फीट का अभी इंडस्ट्रियल में वहाँ पे मैंने मेरा प्लॉट लिया। तो अभी वहाँ पे मेरे 8,600 स्क्वायर फीट के अंदर मेरी फैक्ट्री का भी वहाँ पे कंस्ट्रक्शन काम स्टार्ट हुआ है। तो मैं यहाँ पे एक ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि आपके मन में कोई भी आइडिया हो तो गवर्नमेंट के लिए तो आप अप्लाई कीजिए, वहां पे फंड्स अवेलेबल आप अप्लाई कीजिए। लेकिन फंड के ऊपर डिपेंड न रहते हुए आप किस तरह से छोटे छोटे आइडिया से पैसा कमा के वही आप पैसे रियूज कर सकते हो। यदि आप इस यदि रियूज करोगे, यदि ये आइडिया आप मन में रखोगे, तो 100% श्योरली आपका जो बिजनेस है वो आगे बढ़ेगा। बहुत स्टार्टअप आप देख सकते हो कि स्टार्टअप अभी एक ट्रेंड बन हो चुका है, एक ट्रेंड बंधा हुआ है कि फाउंडर के तौर पे हूँ और इनके ऊपर डिपेंड हूँ, यदि फंड टाइम के ऊपर नहीं मिलता है तो बहुत सारी कंपनी बंद पड़ जाती है। तो मैंने वही देखा कि कंपनी इसलिए बंद पड़ती है कि फंड के ऊपर डिपेंड रहते हैं। आप डिपेंड मत रहो, यदि फंड मिला तो बेहतरीन है, अच्छा है। लेकिन नहीं मिलता है फिर भी तो आप प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कीजिए। यदि कोई छोटी मशीन आप बनाना चाहते हो तो बनाइए। अभी मेरा बायोचार का काम मैंने, लेकिन अभी बायोचार रिसर्च है, रिसर्च के लिए पैसा लगता है। तो इसके लिए मैंने फिर वर्मी कंपोस्ट सिविंग मशीन, पावर टिलर मशीन्स, सैनिटरी पैड बनाने का मशीन, वो भी मैं एक्चुअली ऑर्डर्स ले रहा हूँ। तो इसीलिए इसी तरह से मैं अभी धीरे धीरे 4 साल के अंदर अच्छी मैं कंपनी खड़ी कर पा रहा हूँ। और अभी मेरे कंपनी में मैंने मेरे 7 लोगों को अभी रोजगार दिया हुआ है। और मेरा एक ही
हम्म।
ध्येय है, छोटी मुंह बड़ी बात, लेकिन आने वाले 5 समय में मेरी कंपनी को मैं पब्लिक लिमिटेड कैसे कर सकता हूँ, इसके ऊपर मैं फोकस कर रहा हूँ। और यहाँ पर मैं आपको एक बात और बताना चाहता हूँ। जो भी बड़े बिजनेसमैन है जैसे कि धीरू भाई अंबानी है ना, जैसे अदानी जी है, उन्होंने कुछ इनोवेशन वगैरह किया नहीं है, कुछ भी इनोवेशन नहीं किया है, लेकिन जो बिजनेस एग्जिस्टेंस है मार्केट में, वही बिजनेस के उन्होंने अच्छी तरह से हैंडल किया, मैनेजमेंट किया। तो यहाँ पर अपने जो भी यंग जनरेशन की कुछ इनोवेशन करो, कुछ इनोवेशन करो, आप इनोवेशन कीजिए, उसके सिलसिले में नहीं बता रहा, इनोवेशन कीजिए। लेकिन बिजनेस को अच्छे से अच्छा आप यदि कर सकते हो तो 100% श्योरली आप भी अदानी या अंबानी से भी बड़े बन सकते हो। तो मैं यही बात देख के जैसे सोच समझ के चल रहा हूँ, यदि वो कर सकते हैं, नई इनोवेशन करते हुए बड़ी कंपनी बना सकते हो, तो मैं क्यों नहीं बना सकता। और तो इसी तरह से फिर मैं भी करके भी चल रहा हूँ बिजनेस में। तो
वंडरफुल।
आप सभी को मेरा धन्यवाद कि आपने मुझे इतना अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म दिया प्रेजेंटेशन देने के लिए, मेरी दो बातें रखने के लिए, जिससे कि मेरे कोई बातें सुन के यदि साथ में जैसे माने तो वो भी आगे बढ़ेंगे तो मुझे भी उसमें हैप्पीनेस होगा। और क्या होता है कि कोई छोटा उद्यमी यदि आगे बढ़ता है तो वो उद्यमी एक उद्यमी को मदद करता है। और कभी भी आप मदद कीजिए, ऐसा नहीं पता कि आप उन्हें नॉलेज देंगे और बताएंगे फिर वो आपके आगे बढ़ जाएंगे। आपके आगे भी बढ़े तो आपको कहाँ ना कहाँ पर आपको हाथ देंगे। तो वही होता है कि आप यदि किसी को आगे बढ़ाते तो 100% श्योरली भगवान भी आपको आगे बढ़ाएंगे बढ़ाएंगे। सोच अच्छे रखिए और नैतिकता रखिए बिजनेस में, 100% श्योरली आपका काम अच्छा होता है। और एक बात मैंने इसमें कभी प्रैक्टिकली देखी सर, एक्चुअली यदि आप आपका खुद के बारे में सोचेंगे, कंपनी का यदि मालिक होने के दावत खुद का सोचेंगे, तो कभी भी वर्कर आपके साथ नहीं जुड़ेगा। अभी बोलते हैं ना कि मैन पावर इश्यू बहुत है, पैसा देने के लिए तैयार लेकिन मैन पावर नहीं मिलती। लेकिन आप उनको आपके साथ में यदि उनको भी आप यदि आगे बढ़ाना चाहोगे, उनकी भी जो ख्वाहिशें होती है कि घर, उनका खुद का घर हो, गाड़ी हो, मेडिकल हो, उनका बच्चों का एजुकेशन हो, यदि आप उनको धीरे धीरे देना चाहोगे तो 100% श्योरली फिर आपको लोग जुड़ते जाएंगे। तो मैंने खुद अनुभव किया है। तो इसी तरह से मेरे जो भी साथ मैन पावर है तो वो मुझे करते भाई आप आगे बढ़ो, आप टेंशन मत लीजिए, आप आगे बढ़ेंगे तो हम भी आगे बढ़ेंगे। तो मेरा यही कहना है कि आप आगे बढ़ेंगे तो आपके साथ में जो आपकी टीम है उनको उनका भी आगे बढ़ाने का ध्येय रखिए। खुद आगे बढ़ेंगे, उनको नहीं बढ़ाएंगे तो फिर आप 100% आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएंगे। तो इस तरह से मैं यहाँ पे मेरा दो शब्द कहना चाहता हूँ। किसी को
बिल्कुल,
कोई
बहुत अच्छे।
क्वेश्चन, किसी को यदि कोई
नहीं नहीं,
क्वेश्चन।
ये बिल्कुल, आई मीन गोविंद, आपने जो जो भी बोला, आई मीन मेरे ख्याल से बहुत इंस्पिरेशनल रहा सबको। देर इज नो डाउट कि इसमें जो आपने दो चीज जो आपने बोला,
हम्म।
एक तो आपके इनोवेशन के बारे में कि
हाँ।
लो कॉस्ट कैसे हो सकता है जो इफेक्टिव भी है,
बराबर।
दैट इज ऑल्सो इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट। तो उसको डेवलप करना, उसको मार्केट करना, उसका डेवलपमेंट एंड उसका जो आपका जो अगरबत्ती से बायोचार का शिफ्ट हुआ, वो भी दैट्स अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लेसन कि कैसे बिजनेस में भी वो सोचना चाहिए हमको।
बराबर।
फिर सिर्फ इनोवेशन से काम नहीं बनता है, बिजनेस को खड़ा करने के लिए कैसे क्या
बराबर।
करना पड़ता है वो भी आपने
बराबर।
बताया। तो
बराबर।
बहुत अच्छा लगा सुन के आपका। इनफैक्ट कई कोई लोगों ने पूछा भी है अभी इसमें कि कुछ
हम्म।
कुछ प्रश्न है कि क्या कॉस्ट क्या है आपका,
बराबर।
किसी को चाहिए तो आपको आपको कैसे कांटेक्ट करें, आपने
बराबर।
कितने मशीन साल भर बेचे हैं, तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताइए। क्या कॉस्ट है आपके जो अभी जो बनता है आपका।
बराबर। अभी जो कॉस्टिंग है छोटा छोटा मशीन, उसमें हमने उसको 20,000 रुपये का रखा हुआ है, 20,000 रुपीज। और उससे थोड़ा एडवांस मॉडल माने तो एक मिनट जैसे कि उसमें यदि आपको विनेगर अलग से चाहिए प्रोसेस होते हुए और बायोचार भी चाहिए, तो उसका हमने कॉस्टिंग 50,000 रुपीज रखा हुआ है। और अभी फुल ऑटोमेटिक मशीन के ऊपर जो काम कर रहे हैं अभी हम, जो कि 1 घंटे के अंदर कम से कम 400 kg कचरे का प्रोसेस करके देगा। और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ओनली 1 किलोवाट लगेंगी। ट्रैक्टर के ट्रॉली के ऊपर होगा, जहाँ पे आपका कचरा होगा वहां पे आपका प्रोसेस हाथों हाथ कर पाएंगे। तो उसका कॉस्टिंग अभी हमने लगभग अराउंड 12 लाख रुपए निकाला था। तो वो उसका एक
हम्म।
बेनिफिट होगा, जहाँ पे आपका एग्रीकल्चर क्रॉप्स होगा वहां पे आप प्रोसेस कर सकते हो हाथों हाथ।
मतलब मोबाइल काइंड,
मोबाइल
मोबाइल जैसा
मोबाइल
मोबाइल
मोबाइल।
डिवाइस है वो,
हाँ,
मतलब
मोबाइल डिवाइस।
मोबाइल बायोचार यूनिट है।
हाँ हाँ।
वेरी गुड,
तो
वेरी गुड।
ये फंड में एक्चुअली उन्होंने फिर मुझे आईआईटी पलक्कड़ केरला उन्होंने दिया हुआ है, और आईआईटी दिल्ली, जो कि इस मशीन को अभी हम फुल ऑटोमेटिक लॉन्च अराउंड फरवरी के अंदर लॉन्च होगा फुल ऑटोमेटिक का। जो अच्छे तरह से काम कर रहे हैं, उनके पास पैसा अवेलेबल है तो 12 लाख समथिंग वो वहां पे खर्च कर सकते हैं। लेकिन इनिशियल स्टेज का उनका शुरुआत है तो 20,000 सही है कि 20,000 रुपये स्टार्ट करके उनको यदि आमदनी अच्छी तरह से होने लग जाएंगे फिर वो 50,000 का लेंगे। 50,000 में और उनका मार्केटिंग अच्छे तरह से हो रहा है, आमदनी हो रही है, फिर वो 12 लाख 12 लाख के ऊपर भी जा सकते हैं। तो इस तरह से हमने मॉडल रखा है कि छोटे से भी कोई स्टार्ट करेगा, इनकम स्टार्ट होगा तो फिर आदमी 12 लाख के जगह 1 करोड़ के ऊपर भी जा सकता है। तो उनको कुछ ना कुछ प्लेटफॉर्म चाहिए। और अभी मैंने ये भी देखा कि आप मशीन तो बेच रहे हो, लेकिन मशीन के साथ में यदि आप उन्हें मार्गदर्शन करेंगे, जैसे कि आप इसका वैलिडेशन कैसे कर सकते हो। जैसे बायोचार तो बन जाएगा, लेकिन बायोचार का कौन कौन सा प्रोडक्ट आप बना सकते हो। जैसे फिर मैंने बताया आपको कि इंसेंस स्टिक में भी खुद आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो, एज अ फर्टिलाइजर के तौर पे भी उसमें वर्मी कंपोस्ट में ऐड करके वर्मी चार बना के उसको आप बेच सकते हो। अभी वर्मी कंपोस्ट में बेचेंगे तो 10 रुपीज या 15 रुपीज आपको वो बेचा जाता है। तो उसमें आप यदि कोई चीज यदि मिलाते हो, वैलिडेशन करते हो, तो 15 रुपए का प्रोडक्ट आप 20 रुपए या 30 रुपए में बेच सकते हो। प्रोडक्ट वही रहेगा, लेकिन आप उसमें यदि क्वालिटी थोड़ा क्वांटिटी कोई
हम्म।
अलग से प्रोडक्ट ऐड करते हो, तो उसका एक क्वालिटी बढ़ जाता है। तो उस क्वालिटी के ऊपर आपका,
बिल्कुल।
तो वैलिडेशन करना आपको आना चाहिए। और वैलिडेशन के साथ साथ में भी यहाँ पे मैं एक बात सीखा हूँ कि यदि आप फाउंडर होने के नाते यदि आपको 30-40% भी नॉलेज होता है, 20% भी होता है अलग अलग फील्ड का, तो कभी भी आपकी कंपनी बन नहीं पड़ पाएंगी। अभी जैसे एग्जांपल में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक, एमएस इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स हूँ, लेकिन फैब्रिकेशन मैंने कभी किया भी नहीं। जैसे वेल्डिंग का काम किया नहीं। पहली ऑर्डर मिली थी मुझे रेमंड कंपनी की, वहां पे कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम स्टार्ट रहा था। वहां का एक इंजीनियर थे जयंत महाजन, उन्होंने बोला गोविंद आप सीविंग मशीन बना सकते हो क्या। बाहर उसका कॉस्टिंग 45-50,000 था। तो वही मशीन मैंने उनको 28,000 में बना के दी थी। सिर्फ उनको बोला था कि आप मुझे सिर्फ 20 दिन दीजिए, 20 दिन के अंदर हो पाए तो ठीक है, नहीं हो ठीक। तो वहां से जो मेरी जर्नी स्टार्ट हुई सीविंग मशीन की, स्क्रीनिंग मशीन की, तो हर महीने अभी मैं अराउंड 5-6 लाख का तो ओनली सीविंग मशीन बेचता हूँ।
अरे
क्योंकि,
वाह।
हाँ, क्योंकि सीविंग मशीन आपको बायोचार सेग्रीगेशन के लिए भी लगेंगी, सॉइल सेग्रीगेशन
बिल्कुल।
करने के लिए लगेंगी, प्लास्टिक हो या आपका कोई आटा हो, कुछ भी हो, मशीन एक ही है, लेकिन आपका अलग अलग फील्ड में आपका उसी मशीन का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है। तो मैं वो समझा कि मशीन एक ही है, लेकिन प्रोडक्ट अलग अलग में आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो। तो वही
बिल्कुल।
मैं बताना
बिल्कुल।
चाहता हूँ। तो वही है
बिल्कुल।
कि प्रोडक्ट जैसे कि आप बता सकते हैं ना कि अगर कोयला आपने बायोचार बनाया, तो बायोचारा अगरबत्ती में भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हो, ब्रिकेट्स बना के होटल इंडस्ट्री को दे सकते हो। अभी हमारे तरफ यदि आप नॉर्मल वुड चारकोल बेचेंगे होटल इंडस्ट्री को, तो 35 रुपए 40 रुपए स्टार्ट होता है। पूना में वही देखा मैंने, तो 35 से भी स्टार्ट होता है, ज्यादा से ज्यादा 60 रुपए पर केजी के हिसाब से बेचा जाता है ना। तो प्रोडक्ट एक ही होता है, लेकिन एक ही प्रोडक्ट को अलग अलग जगह अलग अलग वेराइटी में इस्तेमाल किया जाता है। तो आपको समझना चाहिए कि प्रोडक्ट तो बना देंगे, लेकिन प्रोडक्ट आप कस्टमर सेगमेंटेशन कहाँ पे है आपका। तो एक कस्टमर यदि प्रोडक्ट नहीं लेता है तो दूसरी जगह बेचा जाएगा। जैसे अगरबत्ती से मेरी इनकम कम स्टार्ट हो जाएगा, तो फिर होटल इंडस्ट्री है, होटल इंडस्ट्री नहीं है तो फिर एनिमल फीडिंग के लिए भी बायोचार का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, आप देख सकते हो। तो वही है कि अलग जगह से आप माल बेचेंगे, दो प्रोडक्ट दो जगह से भी यदि इनकम आपका कम हो जाएगा, तो तीन आपका जो माल बेचेंगे वहां का भी इनकम स्टार्ट रहेगा। तो कभी भी एक
बिल्कुल।
इनकम इनकम के ऊपर आप डिपेंड मत रहिए। और
बिल्कुल।
आपको मार्केट का सर्वे करना पड़ेगा कि कितना डिमांड है, कब प्रोडक्ट चलता है, कब बिकता है। अभी बायोचार का इस्तेमाल ठंडी और बरसात के दिनों में बढ़ता है। क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पे कोई हीट के लिए इस्तेमाल कर सकता है, कहीं कर सकता है। और प्रोडक्शन ठंडी के दिनों में भी और बरसात के दिनों में भी बायोचार का प्रोडक्शन कम होता है बरसात के कारण।
हम्म। बिल्कुल।
तो आप स्टॉक
Govinji,
बना के
there
रख
are
सकते हो।
four few more questions.
तो इस तरह से
Can
आप कर सकते हो।
hello?
तो एक दो चीज,
हाँ,
एक दो प्रश्न पूछ रहा हूँ। डॉक्टर रूपनार पूछ रहे हैं कि कॉस्ट तो आपने बता दिया, 20,000 का
बराबर।
जो लोएस्ट है, 50,000 बाद में का जो
हाँ हाँ।
विनेगर के साथ वाला है। और एक प्रश्न है कि कौन सा टाइप ऑफ एग्रो वेस्ट आप
अच्छा, ओके।
बायोचार में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं।
आप ईच एंड एवरी काइंड ऑफ क्रॉप रेसिड्यू भी कन्वर्ट इन अ बायोचार। कॉर्नोकॉफ, कॉटन स्टॉक, आप गन्ने का जो एक्चुअली बगास होता है उसे भी आप कर सकते हो। अभी इवन हमने एक कस्टमर ने क्वेश्चन किया कि गोविंद भाई बोले इसके अंदर हमने लकड़ी डाली, मतलब चलो ठीक है। पानी का नारियल डाल दिया ग्रीन वाला, मतलब चलो ठीक है वो भी डालते हैं। उसके साइड में कोई कागज लीजिए आप, कागज कागज भी डाल दिया, चाय का कप डाल दिया। तो उनका क्वेश्चन ऐसा था कि गोविंद भाई हर वेस्ट का बर्निंग टाइम का प्रोसेस अलग अलग होता है। तो जैसे हमने लकड़ी डाल दी, उसके साथ में आपने पत्ता भी डाल दिया, सूखा कागज डाल दिया, तो वो राख हो जाएगा, ऐश में कंटेन हो जाएगा, क्योंकि जल्दी राख हो जाएगा ना, लकड़ी बाद में होंगी। तो हमने उनको ट्रायल भी दिखाया। तो जब हमने 6 घंटे के बाद उसका प्रोसेस हुआ कंप्लीट, विनेगर तो निकला, लेकिन लकड़ी भी वैसे ही आपका बायोचार बन गया। जो ग्रीन नारियल डाला था वाटर कोकोनट का, उसका भी एक्चुअली बायोचार बन के निकल आया। और कागज जो डाला था चाय का कप, उसका भी बन गया। तो उनका जो क्वेश्चन था कस्टमर का, तो क्वेश्चन मैंने सॉल्व भी किया और प्रॉब्लम मैंने सॉल्व किया। तो आप किसी तरह का
वेरी
भी डाल
नाइस।
सकते हो। इतना है कि यदि आपका क्रॉप रेसिड्यूज यदि गीला होगा तो गीला होने के कारण से उसका प्रोसेस टाइम बढ़ेगा, है ना। और 80% यदि
करेक्ट।
सूखा होता है तो आपका प्रोसेस टाइम उसमें घटेगा। तो
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
हाँ, और उसका वॉल्यूम, हर चीज का वॉल्यूम अलग अलग है। किसी चीज को 6 घंटा लग सकता है, कोई चीज को यदि 3 घंटा लग सकता है,
बिल्कुल।
डिपेंड करता है वॉल्यूम के ऊपर,
तो
और
मटेरियल
आपके
और
मेटेरियल
उसका, या बिल्कुल
मटेरियल के
बिल्कुल
ऊपर।
वेरी,
हाँ।
बिल्कुल। जॉय और विभीषण दोनों के पास कुछ प्रश्न है, तो मे बी आप लोग पूछ लीजिए। विभीषण, आप डू वांट टू आस्क? आप पहले पूछ लीजिए।
यस 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 यस। नमस्ते, मैं शेग्रू फाउंडेशन से बात कर रहे हैं।
नमस्कार।
हाँ, मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है कि बायोचार और चारकोल में क्या ये है डिफरेंस है,
बराबर,
ये जरा
राइट
बता
राइट
सकते हैं
राइट।
आप?
राइट राइट।
हम्म,
तो नॉर्मल जो वुड होता है, जैसे अभी एग्जांपल बता रहा हूँ, जैसे यदि आपने मक्की का भुट्टा लिया एग्जांपल, तो मक्की के भुट्टे में जो स्पोरोसिटी होना चाहिए, एग्जांपल बता रहा हूँ, अभी नॉर्मल जो वुड चारकोल होता है उसमें स्पोरोसिटी कम होती है। और जो बायोचार बोला जाता है, बायोचार अराउंड 400 to 700 के अंदर आपका बायोचार बनता है। तो उस टेम्परेचर अंदर जो भी आपकी चीज का बायोचार बनता है तो उसमें स्पोरोसिटी की मात्रा संख्या ज्यादा आती है। और कार्बन कंटेंट जो आता है, फिक्स कार्बन कंटेंट, जैसे हर मटेरियल का अलग अलग है। जैसे अभी हमने नीम का पेड़ का लिया था, कोकोनट शेल का लिया, तो उसमें कार्बन कंटेंट 80 से लेके लगभग आया 90% तक आया। और स्पोरोसिटी उसमें ज्यादा होती है। तो आप जो नॉर्मल वुड चारकोल जो बाहर बनाते हैं, जैसे कि आप जलाएंगे, उसके ऊपर पानी डालेंगे एग्जाम्पल ओपन एयर में, तो उसमें कार्बन कंटेंट में कोई फिक्स नहीं रहेगा, कार्बन कंटेंट भी आपका इमिशन के थ्रू बाहर निकल जाएगा। तो इस तरह से इसमें डिफरेंस होता है। और एक्टिवेटेड चारकोल, आगे का प्रोसेस एक्टिवेटेड चारकोल, उसे यदि आप हाईली वेपराइज करते हो, वेपराइज माने तो कि जैसे उसमें जो होलो की मात्रा है, होलो को यदि आप इम्प्यूरिटी जो आती है अंदर, इस इम्प्यूरिटी की आप यदि आप क्लीनिंग करते हो, स्पोरोसिटी को आप वेपराइज करते हो, तो उसमें आपकी संख्या मात्रा बढ़ जाती है। तो उसे आप फिर एक्टिवेटेड चारकोल बोलोगे। तो इसमें डिफरेंस होता है सर, इस तरह से होता है नॉर्मल।
या
वो
वंडरफुल।
पायरोलिसिस करता है, वो पायरोलिसिस एक प्रोसेस है उसमें।
बराबर,
वो क्या है, और वो जरा जान सकते हैं हम कि वो क्या
बराबर।
पायरोलिसिस है,
अब
मीन्स
तो
या
क्या?
आई थिंक इसको शायद आपको काफी टाइम लग सकता है, तो ऐसा करते हैं कि जॉय का भी प्रश्न लेंगे, एक दो और प्रश्न है। विभीषण जी, हम
बराबर।
लोग, और
ओके।
एक्चुअली गोविंद गोविंद कई सारे लोगों ने आपका कांटेक्ट नंबर, ईमेल पूछा है। कुछ लोगों को
बराबर।
फ्लायर चाहिए, कुछ लोगों को इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए। तो आपका नंबर और ईमेल जो है वो अपना चैट बॉक्स में डाल दीजिए। विभीषण
बराबर।
जी, आप जरूर गोविंदा से बात कर लीजिए, बिकॉज ये काफी टाइम आपको, मतलब जो आपका जो कॉन्वर्सेशन है वो काफी इम्पोर्टेंट है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि उसको काफी टाइम लग सकता है। तो इस कॉल में ना रोक के हम लोग बाद में भी बात कर सकते हैं आप।
ओके, नहीं
ओके,
नहीं
इज दैट
सर, क्या
ओके?
होता है, एक एक मिनट सर, क्या हो रहा
जी।
है, बायोचार के नाम है ना, बहुत गुमराह करने को जा रहे हैं लोग
ओके
आजकल। और
ओके।
इसमें अभी होटल का भी नाम लिया उन्होंने, होटल में भी
बराबर।
वेस्ट दे रहा है। बायोचार होटल में देने के लिए परवड़ेगा क्या? दूसरा और है कि महाराष्ट्र का सॉइल है, वो कौन सा तरीके का है, और आप बायोचार उसको यूज करने बोल रहा है। तो फार्मर को भी गुमराह नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो कौन सा
बिल्कुल।
सॉइल में यूज करता है। ये जरा, ये था, इसलिए मैं जरा अंदर घुस
गुड
रहा था।
पॉइंट, गुड पॉइंट।
थैंक यू,
नहीं, ये
थैंक यू, थैंक
आपने
यू।
अच्छा बात किया है। इनफैक्ट एक्चुअली मुझे लगता है कि इसका भी थोड़ा जवाब हमको लेना पड़ेगा ही, क्योंकि ये हर चीज का कोई, मतलब एक कुछ मैजिक तो है नहीं कि मतलब आपने बना दिया और हो गया। तो आपका प्रश्न तो इम्पोर्टेंट है, लेकिन हम लोग, मुझे इसको लगता है कि आप एक शायद ऐसा भी कर सकते हैं कि आने टाइम पे एक बायोचार पे एक स्पेशल
यस
कॉन्वर्सेशन रखते हैं, क्योंकि
श्योर।
कई सारे इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं इसके बारे में। तो
यस
वी
यस,
विल हैव
थैंक
अ
यू, थैंक यू।
स्पेशल सेशन टू गो डीपर इनटू द सब्जेक्ट।
ओके, थैंक यू
श्योर।
सर, थैंक यू।
जी, थैंक यू जॉय। आप डू यू वांट टू शेयर योर, डू यू वांट टू हैव योर क्वेश्चन प्लीज?
Yes. So thank you, Govind. Very good presentation. Really put into practice circular economy. तो आप औरंगाबाद से नज़दीक हैं, तो इसलिए आपसे ज़रूर संपर्क करूंगा।
श्योर।
हम ऐसे लोकल रोजगार को बढ़ावा देने में लगे हैं, जो पर्यावरण के लिए भी अच्छे है, पर्यावरण के अनुकूल हो, ऐसा रोजगार जो ग्रामीण सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी से जुड़े हो। आपका जो इनोवेशन है बहुत अच्छे से फिट बैठता है। तो इसीलिए मैं आपको संपर्क करूंगा। तो इस जगह में कैसा बढ़ावा दे सकते हैं, इस पर हम चर्चा करेंगे। Thank you so much. It's
Sure.
nice. And by the way, sorry, have you heard of Innovation Guild? सुने Innovation Guild के बारे में?
नहीं जी.
अच्छा, I will just put that in the chat box. I believe it will be very helpful for you. मैंने अभी चैट बॉक्स में वो लिंक डाला हुआ है.
ओके.
तो इनोवेशन गिल्ड से हम भी कुछ मशीनें लाए हुआ था. कुछ मशीन सक्सेस हुआ, कुछ मशीन ज़्यादा सक्सेस नहीं हुआ. तो इनोवेशन गिल्ड एक पोर्टल है जिसमें हम नया जो इनोवेशंस है जो ग्रास रूट में उपयोग कर सकते हैं, वो इनोवेशन के बारे में इस पोर्टल में सब जानकारी मिल सकता है और आपका जानकारी भी डाल सकते हैं.
बराबर.
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच.
वंडरफुल, थैंक यू सो मच. आई नो मुझे अनफॉर्चुनेटली कट करना पड़ रहा है, लेकिन काफी इंटरेस्टिंग सब्जेक्ट है. विभूषण जी ने बहुत 2-3 अच्छे प्रश्न पूछे, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि उसको ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा. उसको हम लोग केयरफुली अच्छी तरह से आंसर करेंगे, लेकिन उसको कोई एक और स्लॉट देके कभी और एक ऐसा ही मीटिंग रखेंगे जहाँ पे ये सारा प्रश्न जो है, क्योंकि काफी चीज जो है इसमें साइंस भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. हर चीज के लिए एक ही दवाई नहीं होती, तो ये सोच समझ कर काम करना है. इसमें सोच समझ के काम करने से ही जो आउटपुट मिलेगा वो उसका है. तो इसके लिए हम लोग बिल्कुल अलग से एक और बार मिलेंगे आपसे, गोविंद जी, विभीषण जी, और कई सारे लोगों ने आपका कांटेक्ट पूछा है. गोविंद ने अपना फोन नंबर और ईमेल आईडी डाला हुआ है चैट में, जरूर जाके देख लीजिए और गोविंद से कांटेक्ट भी करिए. एंड अगेन थैंक यू सो मच. बहुत अच्छा लगा आपका स्टोरी सुन के. कई और भी प्रश्न है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि आज टाइम शायद कम पड़ेगा सबको आंसर करने में, लेकिन आप जरूर मीटिंग में रहिए, क्योंकि और भी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं. सो थैंक यू वंस अगेन गोविंद. नाउ विद दिस, हाँ नमस्कार. एंड नाउ विद दिस आई विल इनवाइट Joy Daniel to come. He is our second speaker, also from Maharashtra, Aurangabad, now known as Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. Joy comes from a family which has worked for a very long time in promoting organic farming. He is a founder of an organization called the Lipok Social Foundation, also based in Aurangabad, which is the administrative capital of Marathwada district of Maharashtra. Many people have heard of Vidarbha and the farmer suicides, but I think unfortunately now Marathwada is probably the place where things are getting really bad over the last several years, and it has been a very unfortunate. बहुत खराब बात है कि आजकल भी अभी भी वो चल रहा है. फार्मिंग इन मराठवाड़ा एंड विदर्भा आर स्टिल very difficult and extremely challenging, and Joy and his team have been working in that space for almost 20-30 years in that space. So I think we are very fortunate कि Joy आप हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं आज. And if you look at the kind of issues that Joy and his team have worked, it ranges from water to organic farming to rural entrepreneurship. In fact, actually, he has given a wonderful tip and a suggestion to Govind as well. So it shows that he has a deep understanding of what's happening in the rural entrepreneurship space. Trees, plantations, health, sanitation, जो भी चीज मुझे लगता है कि रूरल इकोनॉमी में इम्पैक्ट करता है, उसमें जॉय डैनियल ने अपना और उन्हें उसकी टीम ने काम किया है. सो आई एम वेरी वेरी हैप्पी दैट यू आर हियर. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंटली, जब मैं रिसर्च कर रहा था आपके बारे में, आई ऑल्सो फाउंड दैट यू हैव played an important role in things like the participatory guarantee scheme and so on. So I know it's a very interesting thing. We all want to know more about it. लेकिन जो स्पेशल चीज मुझे अच्छा लगा जॉय के साथ बात करते समय was his thinking about how can you have a circular rural economy. हमारा टॉपिक, our topic is circular bioeconomy, which is a part of the overall circular economy and all that. But what he's talking about is a very closely connected aspect of this circular rural economy, and I've requested Joy to enlighten us about that. So over to you, Joy.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And it's my privilege to be here. So let me share my screen. I hope you all are able to see the screen.
Yes.
So to introduce myself, as I was introduced before, I work in Aurangabad, which is now named as Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, and with an organization called Lipok Social Foundation, which was founded by my wife and myself. Must be wondering what Lipok is all about. Lipok is a word from my wife's language. It's our language from Nagaland, and which says it's a new creation. So it's all about, well, it's also biblical, that the world in itself as it is not how it was intended to be created. So we need to think about new ways of how to bring it back to how it was intended to be created, like caring for the nature, caring for people, caring for the environment, caring for animals, and so on and so forth. So that's what the name is all about. And circular economy fits into that name very well. So, sorry, slides. Yeah. So when you look at nature, linear economy, as we see it, is fully against
Joy,
nature.
sorry to interrupt you. We're seeing a black patch. Is everybody also seeing a black patch on your slide deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think then, Joy, can I do one thing? May I present the slide from my laptop and you can tell me when to proceed?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because there's
Shall I try
some
once
patch.
more? Once more, shall I try? One
Try
second.
it, yeah. See if you can, because there was a black patch showing up on the screen. So some parts of your screen are getting hidden. It is still there, unfortunately. I don't know why it is happening.
Sorry, then maybe you can do it.
Yeah, I'll share it on your behalf, and you can tell me when to proceed. Yeah, just give me a second, and I will.
You have tested it, and then at the last moment, something else happens.
Yeah, must have something may happen, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll manage. I'll share it on your behalf.
So it's good to have plan B.
Yeah, always.
Are you sharing? Yeah. Now we can go to the
I'm
next slide.
just. It should be coming up now. Yeah. Okay. Just give me a second. It's just coming up. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go to the next slide now.
Yeah.
The next slide.
Yes, please. 1 second.
Oh, yeah. So linear economy is something that we are going against nature. It is not natural by itself. So by going the linear way, we are going towards destruction because it's not natural. Basic thing is it's not natural. Next slide, please. Because what we are doing is we are taking away from nature to make something. We are taking the soil, the rocks, the water and everything. We are extracting. This is an extractive economy. And then we make something. And while we make something, what we do is we pollute the earth, the soil, the water, and the atmosphere. And what do we do after we make it? It goes for markets again. Next slide, please. So in the markets, what we do is, again, we are marketing products that is not really required, which is you're creating a need. For example, we don't need soda and Coca-Cola. It's not a need. We can live without it. We don't need chemical pesticides, for instance. We can live without it. We can find ways without it. Next slide, please. So what it happens is by marketing something which is not required, we are creating an unsustainable, unhealthy consumption and an unsustainable, unhealthy environment in the overall environment. And what happens after we use it? We dispose it in unnatural ways again. The next slide. Again, it goes to trash. It releases greenhouse gases, toxic waste, pollutes the soil, pollutes the water, and so on and so forth. And what happens to the people? The people also, they don't fit into a linear economy because it's linear economy is against people, against environment, against everything. It's not at all natural. So what happens to the people? People don't fit into it. See, their trees are gone. The local pottery, the pottery is now changed to plastics and all other wares which come to our kitchens and everywhere. So the potter has no business there. The carpenter has no business there. So many enterprises, so many rural enterprises, so many livelihoods have go at stake. So what happens? They migrate. They migrate to cities, and then there is the poverty. They just add to the urban poverty. That's what happens. Next slide, please. And when they migrate, the environment which they were taking care of, they were the custodians of the environment in their local rural villages. But now they move to the city. So now there's further environment degradation. So this is not what we intend. Next slide, please. So this is the entire cycle of it. So you extract something from the soils, from the water, from the trees, forests, and so on and so forth. And then you make something and you make all unsustainable things, and then it's used and disposed. So now this is now what happens? Let's go to the next slide, please. Think about Marathwada. Just 2022 alone, there were 1,023 farmers' suicides. And why so? Because one major reason is they fell into the linear trap. Because the wealth that is in the village is drained out. They have to buy seeds, they have to buy fertilizers. Thank you, Govinda. Now, if your technology comes here, they may not have to buy fertilizers, they may not have to buy fuel. Biochar, if it is produced within the village, it will fill some of these gaps. So I'll be in touch with you there. So yeah, fits very well here, rural circular economy. Next slide, please. So look at the numbers now. Now, what happens when we bring products from outside, which is just meant for marketing and building capital for a certain section of the people, bringing about taxes, bringing about all these things? What happens? Traditionally, we used to use organic compost, organic manure. And look at the data. In 1975, our soil carbon was 1%, which is very good. And now what is it? It is 0.38. That is the carbon percentage, soil carbon percentage. And what that means is our soils are no longer living now. Now no matter how much NPK you put, it's not going to work. So when the Green Revolution started, they started by putting, say, about 50 kilos of NPK per acre. But now they have increased it to maybe 500 kilos, but it doesn't work because carbon is required for this NPK to work in the soils. Carbon is an indication of a living soil, living microorganisms in the soil. And unless these microorganisms are present in the soil, anything that you put is not going to work. So if this status quo continues for the next generation, we will not be able to produce anything from the soils, and no matter what you put. So this is not what we want. Next slide, please. So why do I connect that with soils? We'll come to the last, because circular economy and soils and water is very, very, very connected. Look at the population. They are migrating now. See, in 1970s, about 25% were urban and 75% were rural. In terms of numbers, it was 35 million in the rural and about 12 or 13 million in the urban. But now we are almost 50-50. It's a very marginal difference. So because the population from the village has just gone to the cities now, there's lack of livelihoods. They have not improved their quality of life at all, even though they have migrated. Maybe they have got little income increase, but their quality of life hasn't improved. Next slide, please. And look at the income. The income has the difference, income difference is just growing. Now, there is no government data on how much income is how much is the per capita income in the rural versus per capita income in the urban area. But we use a proxy cause like what is their consumption? How much do they spend per month? So the monthly per capita consumption. Now it is widened so much. It was double in 2004. We are speaking only about 2004 to 2017. It's hardly 5 years. In 5 years, from doubling, it has become triple. So that is the state now. And as the years go, the rural incomes may become 10% of what is the urban incomes. This is not what we intend. We want the farmers to return to their farms, the rural to the village, for the villages to become wealthy again, so they don't have to migrate. So let's go to the next slide then. Now, why do they? Now, the GDP is shifting again. Cotton is produced at the rate of 60 rupees per kilo by the farmer. He sells it. But then it's value added, and then we get it at 3,000 rupees per kilo of some shirts. The same with tomatoes. 5 rupees per kilo is what the farmer sells in the market. And then he gets a ketchup. If they want to have a ketchup, it is 140 rupees per kg. Now, this value addition happens in the village itself. These are two such examples. Well, there are no more such examples. For example, they don't have to buy DAP and urea and all those NPK and all that. Organic compost can be made. Organic DAP can be made. Oh, biochar can be added to vermicompost. And so it becomes value-added compost and so on, which is environmentally friendly, soil healthy, and can even bring about better incomes for the farmers because the cost of fertilizers come down, cost of inputs have come down. Next slide, please. Now, we did a basket of deeds survey in a few of the villages, in 20 villages in Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar district. And this is what we found out. Imagine this. The farmers produce food, but 40% of food is imported. Imported from the wholesale markets, which it's coming from somewhere else. Though the farmers produce food, 70% of processed food is imported. Imported meaning coming from outside the village or the district, not from outside the country. Now, food processing can be done within the village. It just needs the technology, skills, and a little bit of, we need to catalyze it maybe with financial incentives and so on and so forth, but more so with knowledge. I'm sure Govind had the knowledge to start. He didn't rely much on funds. So that's the thing that is required here. Fertilizers, 92% of the fertilizers is imported. Now, if you look at it in numbers, a village with 100 households probably imports about 3 crore rupees worth of fertilizers per year. Now, that's a huge sum. And they spend quite a sizable portion of their incomes on buying these fertilizers. Now, what if these fertilizers were produced within the village? That means 3 crores rupees stay within the village. What a wonderful thing. And if you divide it by 100, how much would their incomes increase? The same with seeds. They can produce their own seeds. And 91% of their family needs, cosmetics, soaps, detergents, ropes, everything is imported. Next slide, please. So what is the way out? Let's go to how to make it circular. Next slide, please. In nature, everything is circular. We know the photosynthesis, circular. We know the food cycle, circular. We know the water cycle, circular. Everything in this world is circular. And next slide, please. Even the earth is kept warm at the right temperature because of a circular effect. The sun gives us warmth and heat, and part of the heat gets radiated. But there is a greenhouse. There are some greenhouse gases which keeps the perfect temperature for us and for the creation, for the environment, everything to sustain themselves. But however, if we go along this linear economy direction, if we go along with industrialization, extraction, use of chemicals in farming, and fossil fuels, then we are adding to the carbon dioxide, we are adding to the methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, and so on, and thereby affecting the greenhouse gas layer in the atmosphere. And that's why we have this climate change. So the next slide, please. So we have to reduce the food miles. So whatever is available locally, we have to make the best use of it. For example, we don't have to buy apple juice or apple jams or pineapple jams. We have in our place, for instance, in Marathwada region, we have sitafal, which is a custard apple. We have a fruit called as kaut, which in English is I think
Wood apple.
wood apple, yeah, wood apple. Now these fruits, especially the kaut, is getting extinct now, but we can easily make jams out of it. From the sitafal, we could make juice out of it. We could make ice cream out of it. No need to get into ice cream, of course. We can make juice out of it. So, but the technology, the local innovations in this regard is something that we are missing. Next slide, please. And then there's a carbon footprint. So when you buy something from outside, when anything is imported within the village, when we looked at one of the slides, we said 70% of the processed foods are imported. When it's imported, it's not just the money that is going out. We are adding to the carbon footprint. We are adding to food miles. We are adding to the energy that is used in transportation, in storage, and so on and so forth. The next slide, please. And also we are adding to the water footprint. Say a can of Coca-Cola needs several liters of water to produce, and so on. So we are adding to the water footprint as well. Next slide, please. So what do we do then? While taking, this is not going to be extractive. For anything that we make, we have to take something from nature's resources, the soil, the water, the biodiversity, and so on. But while we do so, we also take actions for regeneration of that. So for regeneration, we make sure if we use bamboo, for instance, we plant bamboos. If we are for fertilizers, we try to make more of organic compost, biodynamic compost, and vermicompost, which are more nature friendly, which actually enhance the soil quality. And for making, we use appropriate technologies that bring about, that foster local livelihoods, technologies that can be made and repaired at the local level, technologies that use less energy. This is what we want. And technologies that are small. We don't need big, massive technologies. We need small. We need, if you have ever read Shoemaker, we need technologies that can decentralize work, not centralize workspaces, which can decentralize workspaces. 100 people make something at their own workspace, not 100 people coming together making something which makes a certain section of the people richer. And for marketing, we are looking at how markets can be made local, markets that enhance, that also includes consumer awareness, that markets that promote environmentally friendly products. And when we have to look at how is the life cycle going to end? After use, is it going to be recycled or reused? This is how we are going to see it. So it is good for the planet, good for the people get their livelihoods, and good for the soils and the water. Next slide, please. Yeah, we spoke. Next slide, please. Yeah, we spoke about this as well. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, please. We didn't speak. Sharing economy is something that we didn't speak about. Sharing economy is just like Uber and Ola and all that. We don't need many machines in the village. So we are piloting certain things. For instance, we are piloting solar powered weeding machine. One machine that can be used by many people. So it's something like Ola and Uber, but for machines at the local level. So otherwise, if every individual has this weeding machine, then the weeding machine is used at 4 times during the season for weeding, and then it remains idle. But when it is shared, it can be used by many people. One machine can be used by many people, and so on. So we are looking at how weeding machine, spraying machines, all environmentally friendly, can be used by many people. And going for your information, we got the weeding machine from the Innovation Guild, solar powered weeding machine. Sorry, battery powered weeding machine. And we also trying it out with also battery powered brush cutter also, and few other machines that we are trying it out. Now, bioresources. So maybe some people do not have the cattle, which is required for making compost. So those who have dairy, they make the compost. Those who have the space and the resources, they make the compost. But the compost is at a centralized location, and maybe a farmer producer company is running it, and then it is distributed to those farmers who cannot make it. So the knowledge rests within the community, and the resources are within the same village environment, and the soil is made healthy, and livelihoods are improved for the people around. Next slide, please. And another thing is this PGS certification. The PGS certification also enhances the local livelihoods, enhances the soil. So in PGS certification, what happens is, for those who are unaware, there are two kinds of certification. One is the third-party certification, whereas certification is done by a third party which sits in from a certification company which is probably based in certifiers or inspectors, as they call it, who come and inspect the processes in the farm and say yes or no, this is organic or not organic. The other way around is the farmers themselves certify their farms as organic. It's kind of peer appraisal which is done in the PhD research and so on and so forth. So these peers, they not only certify or appraise each other, they also share knowledge, they share resources, and PGS certification is for products that go to the nearby cities, nearby villages, and so on. So this also sustains rural livelihoods and circular economy. Next slide, please. We can skip this, yeah, next slide, please. We can skip this. Next, please. So it's good for the people and the planet and all that. And this is what the International Assessment for Science, Technology and Development has emphasized: local livelihoods which keep people in their villages, which is important for the environment and for people and for the biodiversity. This is a study that was done in the countries all over the world, in all the continents, by 150 greatest scientists who came out with this, that we need to focus on small scale organic farms and rural enterprises. Next slide, please. So what we do is, we need to keep wealth, skills and resources within the village. So for that, what do we do? Next slide, please. We start with a basket of needs survey. Now in a basket of needs surveys, what we do is, this is done by the community themselves. We only facilitate the process. What happens is, the community volunteers, they do a household survey along with the community members as well. How much do the community import? How much does a household import? And how much do they buy from the locally produced products? So we find some of the vegetables they buy from the local farmers. Surprisingly, 50% of the vegetables is also imported, astonishingly. So even more surprising is, more than half the milk is imported. Even though the milk is produced within the village, most of them buy packed milk which comes from somewhere else. Hmm? So this is something, this creates thereby when the community is involved in doing this survey, there's a community sensitization that happens. Then they find out, oh my God, so much of fertilizer is required in the village, but 92% is imported actually. So the market for local fertilizers is about 3 crore rupees worth in that village. Say about 10 rural entrepreneurs get into that production of organic compost as an enterprise, then they're tapping into a 3 crore market. They're tapping into a market where if 10 people get into 30 lakh per month, per year market. That's the market. And probably out of 30 lakh, they might get about 5 lakhs in incomes. So then we work with them to to plan a business plan. We have a training module for that. We do a business plan with them and we mentor them till the business comes to fruition. We also help in resource mobilization and so on and so forth. And we till the business comes into fruition. Next slide, please. This is just an example of what while we are conducting the workshops in the villages. Don't worry, it is finishing soon. Yeah. So in the slide on basket of needs analysis, the previous slide, please. Basket of needs analysis. So we say,
Okay.
This vada pav and pav has become a staple food now. Actually, pav is from Portuguese and somehow it has become a staple food in Maharashtra. But pav is even consumed in the villages, but pav is produced in the cities. The same with eggs. Eggs are imported. Eggs, some of it is produced within the village, but much of it is imported. Some of it coming from as far as Andhra Pradesh and Anantapur and so on. So these two posters are there, and we ask the community which is better. There is a Sundarlal Ande Ani Pav, where the person makes its own pav and his poultry and and has his own eggs. So we ask the community. There's a reflective process. So this is a sample of what we do in the workshop. Next slide, please. These are people after the workshops and after doing the basket of needs survey, they have come to these enterprises. There are many more enterprises that has come. So this lady, Kalinda, she makes dal batti flour, and she makes many other mixed flours. And now she is even looking at online markets, but she has already found a space in D-Mart. Now D-Mart has got her products now. So, and this is the second slide is the second photo is of Arjun. Well, he was planning to migrate to the city, looking for a job, but now he earns roughly around 50,000 a month by raising goats. He also makes goat feed to some extent. So he makes roughly 50,000 a month. He's not even a graduate. So it's an enviable salary in a village. Now, next slide, please. So how do we measure circularity? So we made this Gram Chakra Vikas Samiti, which translates to Village Circular Economy Committee.
Development, yeah.
Circular Development Committee. We made this in the 20 villages. We facilitated the development of these committees. And these committees on a regular way do this basket of needs survey. And the concrete measure that there is circularity in the village is the soil health. If the soil health improves, well, I can take a separate session on that. If the soil health improves, that means circular economy exists in that village. Because 92% of the fertilizer, 92% of the village imports is fertilizers and pesticides. The second is, if there is water in the village, that means circularity has improved. If there is biodiversity, and there is an increasing trend of biodiversity, that means this is an indication that there is a rural circularity in place. And if there is a livelihoods, increasing livelihoods in the village, increasing rural incomes, then there is circularity in the village. So these are the indicators of a circularity. And this, if we measure, we know that we are going in the direction of a circular village. Yeah, next slide, please. So great men have, well, I am a shoemaker Bhakt. Hmm? So I have read all his books, and shoemaker speaks a lot about, he didn't use the term circularity, but he used about appropriate technologies. He used about local rural workspaces, decentralized livelihoods, and so on and so forth, which amounts to circularity in nature. The same with Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah. So the next slide, please, which is the last. So by going the circular way, we are regenerating soils, we are regenerating lives, and we are regenerating the economy. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't overshoot the time.
I think we did go a little bit, but I think it was a very, very interesting conversation. We'll use a few minutes for any questions that people have, and then we can move to the next and the last presentation for today. I'm sure we will share Joy's contacts with everyone who is interested in speaking with you. I think there are many people in this in the audience who have been working on some aspects of this thing, like the rural entrepreneurship programs and agriculture programs and so on and so forth. So eventually, I mean, I think it's good to get people to connect with one another and share what they're doing, so that just like what I think Govind benefited from you being in the as a listener, and I think you benefited because Govind has presented something that it might be of value to you. So that's a real wonderful give and take that is going on right now. Somebody has asked a question, Dr. Rupner, can biochar be used to improve soil carbon, and for how long will it take to improve the soil health through biochar treatment? And a question from Sudhatai, the time period it takes to bring in circularity in a village.
Oh, yeah. For the first question, I think Govind is a better person, but biochar, yes, can be used for soil enhancement. 100% yes. Biochar can be used for soil enhancement, can be used for fuel, and so on. So, and can be also used for feed. For the second question, the circularity there cannot be a time frame. Well, if we can take very, very long, because to change people's mindset is not going to be easy. But we can see as of now, in the villages that we are working with, we can see a trend. And to be very honest, it is a slow moving trend, because the corporates have their own marketing strategies and so on, the ways to influence people. So, for instance, we are looking at organic ways of pest management, but then comes Mahiko and Monsanto and all those people who have their Roundup, who are marketing the Roundup, and they have very good ways of marketing and all that. We cannot compete with them. So we have to, it takes a long time. The same with fertilizers, and the same with processed foods also. See, the Pepsi, we cannot it's not easy to compete with Pepsi and all that. So it takes a lot of time, but we can see a positive trend. Thank you. And for the first question, of course, Govind is a better person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think,
Yeah.
go ahead. Let's maybe we can go on to the next presentation for today, and then come back if there is time, and if there are more questions. So let me welcome Maya D'Souza on to our conversation today. Thank you, Maya, for joining us from Bangalore, from Goa, I think, if that's where you are right now. 1 second, please. Let me just close. Yeah. So like I was saying at the beginning, when we were starting to prepare for this conference, I was looking at what's happening, who's doing what, and I found this white paper that was written sometime, I think, middle of last year, if I'm not wrong, Maya, 2024.
Yes,
Yeah.
early 24.
And right, and it was very aptly named as the circular bioeconomy with a focus on growing the circular bioeconomy with a focus on the global south. And that, that was clearly very much, very much overlapped with what we were trying to discuss. And in trying to go through it, it really gave me a lot of insight into what the researchers and the authors of that white paper had worked on. And I know it took me a while, but I finally managed to reach Maya, who's one of the two co-authors of the white paper. And interestingly, also learned about what she's doing now, which is a very interesting biomaterials lab that she and her partners are running in Goa. And I thought it would be a good thing that she could enlighten us on both of these things. One is the white paper that they wrote about, and what comes out of it, and very interestingly, what is it that they're trying to do from a biomaterials standpoint. Talking to her, I realized the importance of science behind all of this. In fact, actually, our opening presentation at the beginning of this whole series by Dr. Kamath, by Dr. Ganesh Kamath, told us how much science is involved in the bioeconomy. So with that, let me hand it over to you, Maya, for your talk. If you want me to run the slides, or if you're there, wonderful. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nadkarni. Thanks very much for inviting me to speak today. And I've listened to the previous speaker, Joy Daniel, and fascinating presentation and a lot of interconnections. So first, thanks for that introduction. Perhaps a little bit more to say. My background is in public policy. I worked in the UK government for many years. I've recently come to live in India I've been here since January 2023. So in the UK, I worked and led teams in a number of different areas, including sort of environmental protection in the agricultural space and subsidies, farming policy in agriculture, and also led a team on soil. So really interesting to hear the discussion we've just had on biochar, etc. And as well as natural environment, later on I went on to work on circular economy and lead a team which was quite cross-cutting, and we pulled together a program which looked at everything from building materials to textiles. And some of those concepts that were shared, like the sharing economy, etc., were the things that we explored. And when I came to India, I was still working with the UK organisation for a while, leading on circular economy with businesses. But then I worked with C-STEP, and part of it, a key part of my work was around the bioeconomy. And we developed this white paper. It was mainly based on secondary research. It was based on secondary research, looking at what different countries were doing, looking at some of the figures and stats relating to the potential for a circular bioeconomy, in particular decarbonisation. That was one of our sort of key drivers. And now you see the slide in front of you, which is Materia Verde. That is an organisation that myself and two others have founded. I'll tell you a little bit about it as I go along. So this is what I'm going to talk about Materia Verde, but then about this, why grow the circular economy, why circularity is important, and the levers of change and how we can shift to a circular bioeconomy. Because sometimes, the concept, we may understand it, but actually transitioning from here to there can be really very difficult. There are a lot of people bought into the linear economy. They that's their business model. It's hard to change things. So my work in C-STEP, we were looking at what are those barriers to change? What would you need to do to create this shift? And in Materia Verde, we're also thinking about that. What is it that we can actually do that would help create transformative change towards a circular bioeconomy where essentially more biomaterials are used? I will touch on some examples of things that can be done. And I've said discussion there, because it's quite late in the evening, I thought I may put the questions up front. The questions in my mind may help you to concentrate and think about this. But I'd say that still, even what we mean by bioeconomy, it means different things to different people. But I'll give you the definitions that we were using at CSTEP. And then the question is, what are the challenges? I've set some out. You'll see them in the slides. Do you agree? What are your views on social and economic opportunities in India? We heard quite a lot about the potential for enhancing or raising rural incomes. Really interesting and very much part of what we're thinking about as well. And then I've asked this question on the policy gaps. And one question that I sort of almost added in listening to the previous speaker was about how important is it that circular bioeconomy is local, and that came up in a recent workshop that we were doing at Materia Verde as well. So these are some of the questions that arise. So I mean, what is Materia Verde? We call ourselves circular biomaterials incubator, venture studio, and think tank. So we're still sort of figuring out as we go along. But when we say venture studio, that is supporting startups and businesses to get off the ground. And we've got a first cohort. And R&D is particularly important. So we have set up some partnerships with R&D institutes in Goa. BITS Pilani is the organisation that we're working with. But we don't think it's only possible to just support startups. To create change, you do have to do much more. And that's the sort of think tank idea. And I'll touch a bit more on that in the end. But our vision is very much about circular materials being central to the global economy, so that we're storing carbon in materials, as well as regenerating degraded ecosystems, and of course benefiting the rural economies. And we are Goa based, but it's not all about Goa. We just see Goa as a sort of hub, and we are playing with this idea really of a Goa Bio Valley, which would be not only a hub in the sense of working on R&D and standards and startups, but also thinking what would physically be different in Goa, in terms of can we build get some homes built which are using materials differently, what sort of packaging could we use in Goa, etc., etc. So a way of sort of trialing and testing out some of these ideas. We see ourselves as disrupting resource-intensive industrial materials. That's part of our mission. These are just some of the materials. There are others that we're thinking about. So I won't go into all of them, but you can see how important carbon is here and the number of different things that you can be thinking about, whether it's algae and seaweed in plastics and polymers, or things more like hemp lime and agrocrete when you're replacing cement and concrete. I'll skip on. For some reason, my colleague Nitin's pictured. Oh, there it is. It's appeared. So we're three people, very different backgrounds. I won't go into it, but finance, design, myself more policy, and working with businesses. So yes, I co-authored this white paper with Anjali Taneja at CSTEP, and also working closely with Indumurti. And we really want to think about circular bioeconomy in the global south. And this was all presented at the World Circular Economy Forum. So if anybody wants to go to a World Circular Economy discussion, there is something called the World Circular Economy Forum that happens every year, which was kicked off by Finnish organisation Citra. But then what is the bioeconomy? As I mentioned, are we just talking about farming? If so, why is it really, so important to talk about it? There's lots of farming going on. So what we began to come up with was the idea of bioeconomy as, in some ways, a step beyond just agriculture agriculture in its traditional sense. So it's optimizing the use of resources. So we may get much more out of a crop. So for example, if it's rice, you may have the rice straw, the stubble, rather than burning it, it could be used, the rice husk, etc. And just to say, when myself and Nitin and Avinash sort of began to work in this area, we were very influenced, we were very driven by seeing a sort of almost a wastage of agricultural resources, but not only waste, but it was being burned. So you see the air quality problems as well. So we really thought, let's see if we can try and solve this. And you know, this is the thinking behind a lot of the discussion on a circular bioeconomy. So it's adding value beyond agriculture and food systems. But it's important that it's circular and regenerative, otherwise it's not really going to be sustainable. And I'll touch on that a bit more in the end. So in Materia Verde, this is our Materia Verde thinking, sorry. That there are a number of different problems. Carbon I mentioned before, land degradation, land use change away from agriculture, which, as a previous speaker mentioned, in the end it sort of affects social structures. So this whole declining contribution of agriculture and forestry, it affects, you know, it's the sort of people's identity, it's structures that they were used to, and then people end up in cities, and is it good for their well-being? Well, maybe not really. They may possibly earn more money, but you know, we're all after well-being and quality of life, really. So can we get past this problem? Can we move towards a circular bioeconomy where we have more sort of maybe stable social structures, where things are always improving for the people, you know, at the lower end in the rural communities. We want them to improve, but not at the expense of, you know, having to leave their families and move into cities. And of course, making more of those unutilized resources. We put it slightly differently in C-STEP when we looked at what you may have seen in terms of sorry, I've almost forgotten what they're called, but this whole idea of there being a number of different areas in which we are pushing at the boundaries, and we have to stay within these boundaries. So we need to stay within the boundaries on climate change and chemical pollution, nitrogen and phosphorus loadings, land conversions and air pollution. And by having a circular bioeconomy, we can actually stop this, you know, over-exploitation of our natural resources, which is causing all those problems in red. So this is our thinking, that the circular bioeconomy is keeping us in that safe space. That's the green, the regenerative circular space, optimizing well-being. And if you've ever looked at the concept of donut economics, this is what this is representing. Donut economics, it's slightly different wording, maybe another topic for another day. So what we thought is we need a transition, but it costs a lot of money and capital costs more. So you have to, in the global south, so you have to we have to be more creative, come up with ways in which we can decarbonize, we can regenerate land. But if we wait forever for the global north to provide the money, you know, it may never happen. So thinking creatively is important. You know, there's a lot of studies about this, and I'm not going to go into this too much, but if we are not sustainable in our use of the bioeconomy, things could be even worse. So the sort of agriculture sector, the growing and harvesting of biomass, it does actually have quite substantial carbon emissions. It does even contribute to, you know, air quality degradation. So we really have to focus on a circular bioeconomy, as well as sort of growing and enhancing the bioeconomy. You know, I mentioned there are a lot of studies, and I won't go into them all, but there's a lot of people who've been looking at, you know, can you create more jobs? Can you generate more income? Those are, and also restoring land. So I'm going to leave you to perhaps look at this in your own time. So what does the circular bioeconomy involve? I mean, we're talking here about a number of different elements of the system, of what you may call the supply chain or the value chain. You need to be looking at all different aspects of it, from primary production, but then to the producing the material, to laboratory and manufacturing processes. All of the areas there's potential for innovation. Even just in things like, not mentioned here, but how things are sold. So if you have platforms that allow for sharing, platforms that allow for renting and leasing, all these parts of the value chain can support a circular bioeconomy. I'm going to touch on the outcomes. We hear about, I've mentioned here the environmental ones, the social ones. Sometimes we don't value things like sense of place. It's like, is that important? But as I was saying at the beginning, and I heard from the last speaker, people do want well-being and quality of life. So say, for example, you are in Goa, where there's a lot of coconut trees, and maybe up in a little further there's areca palms, and there's all sorts of I suppose they're living creatures, animals, living plants that can be utilised, and by continuing to utilise them, we are connecting ourselves to social, to traditions, to the past, which are, I think, important for people. It may seem a luxury, but I don't think it is really, a luxury at the end of the day that we should ignore. And then, of course, it's diversifying incomes, increasing incomes, those economic benefits. So I'm going to move on to the levers of change. How, as I said, and as people have said, we do at the moment have not only a linear economy, but it's very dependent on petrochemicals, on fossil fuels. It's not going to be easy to change, and you can see at the moment in international negotiations a sort of lot of resistance to change. So I mean, what we saw in our Materia Verde discussions, these are the sort of things that have come up in workshops. A very fragmented ecosystem. There's not really coordination. Funding challenges, regulatory barriers. It could be even use of certain timber and other products from trees. There's restrictions which are meant to be protecting trees, or there may be things that are meant to be protecting health, like hemp, the use of hemp. But these things can, in fact, really limit innovation in terms of a circular bioeconomy. But other problems relate to perceptions. People may see biomaterials as something that, their grandparents used. They don't want a house made of biomaterials. They want a house made out of concrete. Even if it's hotter, they may still be thinking that's modern. So these things have to be dealt with. We need to really try and influence and think this through with people, co-create, etc. And some are not really so much perception, but genuine issues about quality standards. How do you know that this product is going to last? And then there could be infrastructure gaps, even things like the fact that biomaterials degrade faster. Well, storage, how you transport things without them getting damaged becomes a challenge. I wanted to say before I'm going to mention some of the challenges, the C-step thinking, but to say that the government has got some strategies and policies, the Bio E3 policy that behind this, you can't see it, but there's a Circular Economy Report 2024. But our feeling is that this focuses very much on innovation and entrepreneurship, and in the maybe more complex areas like therapeutics, drugs, that sort of thing. But there are a lot of other areas which are not focused on in particular, which include things like bio-based packaging, other sort of materials for textiles, very important one, bio-based construction materials, because those are the very high carbon materials, and a lot can be done if we can switch them. So definitely there is a lot of work being done by the government and different states, but there is still gaps. So this is really more from what we found in C-STEP, that there are technology needs where you need R&D, innovation support, logistics are complex. Sourcing things from lots of small farmers is not an easy thing to do. Then there's infrastructure, the problem with costs, prices are higher. Sorry for the spelling mistakes here. But there is potential, for example, to leverage in money by way of carbon credits or, producer responsibility schemes that could pay more into, say, for example, sustainable packaging. So we need to think quite smartly as to how to deal with the fact that some of these bio-based materials, at least initially, may be more expensive. Once you scale up, they may become cheaper in the end, but there's a time when they're going to be more expensive. And that's they sometimes call it the valley of death in terms of innovation, because you can't manage to scale up to get your costs to come down sufficiently. So these are sort of things we need to work on. And, my work in Materia Verde, we're thinking this through. How could we create this change, working with governments, working with businesses that are buying these products? Can they commit to buy some of these new materials? Take a quick breath. Skills deficits, uncertainty of supply, capital, I mentioned earlier as well. So there are a lot of challenges, consumer preferences, costs, I mentioned that before, but there's some other elements here that I've mentioned on the demand side, regulations, and even just uncertainty about what we're all talking about. So having some clear metrics on the bioeconomy may help, having a clear understanding of what's sustainable. You may wonder why I put some words in green, but that was some of the work that we've been doing at Materia Verde, which is at the moment, it's in fact an initiative of Quicksand, and Quicksand is a Delhi-based organisation, but working around India. But they do specialise in thinking about influencing by doing things like world building and storytelling, which is essentially about working with people to reimagine a future. So sometimes change is not only about things like policy instruments and, promoting geographical indicators and doing life cycle assessment, which is what those acronyms are, but it is also about getting people to believe in this. And that's why we talk about world building and storytelling. In C-STEP, the report that we produced talks about 4 main building blocks: the policy framework, societal skills and attitudes, technological innovation, and partnerships and collaboration. And even listening to the last speaker, I can sort of see, we need to be building these collaborations and learning from each other. Somebody working with the farming community and us thinking, we're working with more like the startups, and they may want to source from the rural community, but also we could have startups that are really emerging from the rural community. They could be like producer co-op type startups. I'm very interested in that. C-STEP, we put together how would a state help this transition. So this is the 4-stage set of steps that we've set out. So you have to really understand biomaterials, what's being produced, what are these agri wastes, how much is being produced. No one's going to invest when they don't really have a good idea of the basic landscape. And then think about needs, not only the supply, but what do people actually want. So then moving on to priorities, visions, targets, goals, getting the right governance systems together, and then acting, taking action. It is changing the policy framework. It is using these financial opportunities. I won't go into everything, but then of course monitoring and reviewing. And without these steps, it's very hard to get to change. Of course, sometimes change just seems to happen when everything comes together at the right time. Sometimes people talk about things like the oil price crisis in the 70s influencing cities in Europe. So someone like Copenhagen would think, okay, we're not going the private car route. We're going to be cycling and walking and using public transport, and things get to come together and change occurs. In Materia Verde, we're talking about having a number of different 6 components of work to create change. These are the things that we're looking at. I won't read them all out, but I've mentioned most of these things before. Finance is always a big thing. When you talk to startups, what they're interested in investments. There's all these linkages. The big companies that are the buyers want that you need to link them to what is coming onto the market. And then I have lots of examples, and it's probably not the time to go into them in detail, but in the farming side, there's a lot of things from agri-waste, the byproducts, but there's also new materials like bamboo and hemp. And there's challenges, but there's big opportunities. So we think change is really desirable here. In forestry, you have non-timber products. We looked at some reports of what was being done in other countries, and actually, I think there's one in Indonesia where nuts were being, helping people living in forested areas to really increase their incomes. And timber as well. I mean, timber, how do you do it sustainably, etc.? Big challenges, but if you can do it, it can be extremely beneficial. You are storing carbon in your buildings, and there are these various financial possibilities like carbon credits, nature offsets, biorefining, chemicals, polymers. So there is a lot of science here, and although some biomaterials will be, using straw and a brick, and it's a different sort of science. You may be testing the strength of the building, maybe more physics, but others, you really are going back to the chemistry and going back to, sort of cellular level, cell type, molecular type levels to think about what it is that you can produce. And there's lots of fascinating research going on, and the challenge is linking the research with the businesses to create change. Marine and aquaculture, I'm in Goa, lots of possibilities here. But of course, there's a whole coastline, Maharashtra as well. And as I said, we're only thinking of Goa as being a hub. It's a small place, and we're really trying to get startups that would maybe emerge, work in Goa, but then they may be sourcing things along the length and breadth of this coastline. Nutrient recycling, some people have talked about biochar. There was a black soldier fly is another sort of way of using food waste to make sort of compost, biodigesters, anaerobic digestion. Lots of possibilities here as well, and we know that synthetic fertilizers are highly carbon intensive, so if we can use these other systems, they're very beneficial. That's the end of my discussion. I know it's been a long evening, so I'm going to leave it there. Okay. I will stop sharing.
This was pretty good. I mean, I think we got a good understanding also, at least from the policy angle, what's happening. In fact, in the last 4 days, some of the presentations have actually touched upon many things that you already covered. Like, for example, biochar today in the first Govind's talk. Yesterday we had a lot about the black soldier fly opportunity. There are people here in the audience who have worked on that and so on. So it's good to see that. Tomorrow we have three presentations from people who are actually using biomaterials or alternatives to biomaterial to some of the plastics and some of the kind of packaging that is being used, the tableware that's being used, and so on. So it's good to see that the connections are getting made. I think you did talk a lot about some of the challenges that need to be done, the barriers, particularly the barriers and frictions, and some of these did come up on the second day, for example, where the two individuals who had spoken about their innovations, which was on composting and then biogas, were the recognition is that the opportunity is massive, is very large, is urgent, but the barriers to change are quite significant. Some of it is finance, obviously, and how do you how do you finance such enterprises, but also the inability to enforce rules and laws which are already there. Like, for example, simple things like waste segregation at source. How can one enforce that, and so on? So there seems to be an understanding that this is a difficult space, but clearly the opportunities are quite significant. Yesterday evening, Ram Subramaniam was actually saying that India is actually a sleeping elephant here in terms of green skills, because that's one space. If you look at broadly the green skills, the demand for green skills world over is increasing, and it will keep increasing. And if we are able to tap into that, and I think there was in a couple of your slides, I noticed skill development as an important something that you talked about, is crucial for us to not just use this as an opportunity to fix environmental issues, climate issues locally, but also to provide skilled workforce globally as well, where it might be needed. And a lot of collaboration that you spoke about, that has stood. I mean, it has shown almost on all the 4 days, including in the yesterday's thing where we heard the black soldier fly, what is going on in Rajguru Nagar, not far from Pune, the innovator getting connected with another set of innovators in Kenya and exchanging scientific information about what's happening. So global collaboration is clearly quite helpful here, and I think that's why the focus on Global South made so much sense in what you were talking. So with that, I think we can open up. There are 1 or 2 questions already, but I'm sure there might be more that somebody may want to ask. Rahul, do you want to talk about? 1 second. Yeah, Rahul is asking about what role science and technology communication has in the public policy change-making process. How much of that can be influenced by what's happening in communication in this space?
Right. Well, one of the things that I'm not sure if that is what Rahul's getting at, but that there's a bit of a sort of gap between the research institutes and universities and businesses. So an institute may be doing some really interesting research, but whether it gets passed on to businesses is a challenge that we've put our finger on. Material Verde, that's one of our aims is to help with that sort of, matchmaking, bringing people together. So yeah, I'm not sure if Rahul meant something different, but that's what my thinking is in terms of the communication that's needed.
Rahul, do you want to talk more about your question in case you need something more? We'll wait for Rahul. There's another question on how does carbon credit and its trading work in the Indian agriculture sector? Is there any direct benefit to the farmer at present?
Actually, I'm not sure if I'm really the best person to answer this. Maybe there's somebody else who'd like to answer it, including Joy Daniel. But I mean, we have put together a policy paper which we will be publishing. But and I know that there has been some work in. My understanding is that the agricultural community can get carbon credit, so whether it's biochar, storing soils as the biochar in your soil, or whether it's forestry, agroforestry, you can get carbon credits. There are different systems. There are these sort of voluntary, there's these organizations that work worldwide that are selling carbon offsets. So
Right.
my feeling is that those are the carbon offsets we're generally thinking about. But in terms of the Indian, the formal government policy and whether there's any other carbon credit, I'm not so sure. Although I have got this paper which we need to finish off and publish, but I can't offhand give you the answer. But does anybody else know the answer, if you don't mind me putting it out to others?
I think Joy, do you have something to say?
Well, not much, maybe 2 cents. Yeah. Well, as far as this carbon trade is concerned, it is not the farmer who benefits the most. It is those people who mobilize the farmers, who facilitate the process, the certification companies. Somebody has to certify, okay, this much is the carbon offset that was done. This much is the carbon available. And so somebody has to go say, okay, this fits the gold standards in carbon market, and so on and so forth. So there is a process involved. And the people who do those, they are the ones who who benefit the most. The farmer gets a pittance at the end of it. Of course, it is good for the environment. I mean, the farmers are encouraged to do something good for the environment and so on. But in terms of monetary value, no, not much. That's my view. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, actually, we did have one thought about including a session on carbon credits here during this talk. But yeah, I mean, I think we may need to probably have a full session maybe, because there are a lot of questions around this. There are a lot of lack of clarity around what it is and who benefits and who doesn't, and how to make it possible for somebody in the farming sector to benefit and so on. So there may be something that we should probably speak about. Rita ji is saying it is a long-term goal for farmers. In Madhya Pradesh, some initiatives have been taken, especially in the Tasar sectors. Ranjit, did you have something to add on this? I know Vignan Ashram and you all have been thinking about the carbon credits. Would you like to speak something about what you're...
No, I think it's true that farmers are not getting benefited, and the companies are making money. But I'm also very positive in the sense in next 2 years, I heard with the help of technologies been developed for measuring the carbon, farmers are sequencing, and the market is again reopening. So it's not a kind of not going to come very easily as such, I think. But in 2 years, I think we are hopeful that the companies will be open, especially the Indian companies will be open to buy the carbon credit. Now, I think most companies are buying some carbon credit. As John said, the middlemen are making money right now.
Okay, so yeah, I think we should definitely look at this subject in a little more closely, understand what is happening. What are the macro policy level things, and what is the ground reality, and what is the direction in which we can make it move. And obviously there's so many people involved in this. How do we educate everybody involved in how they can benefit from this and not get left behind? But I think it's a big topic that we should probably address it at another point in time, maybe.
Can I just come in just briefly on
Please.
that? I do
Yeah,
think
please.
it's timely to do this because the government's talking now about introducing a carbon trading system, a bit like the EU. It's coming up the agenda because the European Union is imposing this carbon border adjustment tax. So if you're a country that doesn't have some sort of carbon tax or trading scheme, then you're going to have to your exports are going to be charged a tariff when they enter the European Union. So it's in the interest of countries to start having their own trading scheme. And that should mean that there's carbon credits. And it's interesting to think about that in terms of biomaterials. Will there be a benefit in selling products then instead of that are lower carbon? So maybe selling agrocrete type things, or we don't really export bricks and things to Europe, but some things there may be things that would be exported that can be replaced by biomaterials. So it's a good time to start talking about this.
Good, wonderful. Any other questions? We'll share Maya's email with anybody who wants to get in touch to know more either about the work they're doing and formulating with at Materia Verde in Goa, as well as anybody who has interest in understanding the circular bioeconomy report a little bit deeper. I think we can, as part of the outcomes, we will definitely share a link to the bioeconomy white paper, so interested people can go through it and understand what is coming out of there. There's one question. Could you guide us on how to assess high value utilization and regional strengths in semi-urban areas? Vipin, can you elaborate? Vipin Kashyap, maybe you can unmute yourself and speak.
हेलो गुड इवनिंग
Yeah.
एक्चुअली मैं ये जानना चाह रहा था कि जो सेमी अर्बन एरिया है उसमें हम लोग कैसे मतलब इस वॉल्यूम को किस तरह से पता कर सकते हैं जो
Volume of
वेस्ट
how to determine the volume of waste in semi-urban areas? Is that what your question is?
या यस
Okay.
It's a good question. Is that for me? Because I'm thinking about one of the things I mentioned was about data and really understanding the amounts of weight, the different biomaterials that are being produced, and that would include things like food waste and but there are agro waste, food waste, agro waste, etc. But exactly how you measure it, this is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
But getting good data, how are you going to collect it, whether you're going to do it through sort of government type surveys. When I was working in the UK, there was a whole system that was called waste tracking, trying to track waste through this sort of system of waste collectors, etc. But I don't think that would apply here. So I would say that I would expect a government department, whether it's an agriculture department, maybe even the sort of more like statistics department, to work on collecting that sort of data. And I would say it is important, if you want to get people to invest in businesses that are going to utilize these materials, they need to know how much there is, how certain these material inputs are, And sorry, I can't really speak Hindi, but I think I understood the question though.
Yeah, and I think maybe there is an opportunity to, Vipan, you can maybe speak with Mahesh Shinde, who spoke yesterday on the black soldier fly, and because the town where that has been implemented is actually a semi-urban sort of a place, not very far from Pune, but quite well developed in terms of its infrastructure and so on, and population is not so big that it can't, where behaviors cannot be changed. But yes, somebody had to do it. And we met the lady Dr. Mrinal Bichkar, who for many years actually tried to ensure that people are segregating and so on. There are a lot of things happening, and I guess some of this data collection may not be straightforward. बट मे बी विपन अगर आप महेश से कांटेक्ट करके बात कर लें, शायद आपको यू मे बी यू विल बी एबल टू गेट सम आइडिया कि मे बी हाउ टू मेजर ऑल दीज थिंग्स, हाउ टू डू द असेसमेंट. Thank you so much. I think it's 8 o'clock. We've as always we have taken a lot more than I had thought we might need for this kind of talks. In fact, I think consistently we have taken about an extra half an hour to do these presentations. But I think it also indicates how much there is to know, how much there is to share, and how much more there is to actually understand what's happening and what more needs to be done and who's doing what in this space. So thank you so much once again, Maya, for taking the time. Literally, it was short notice for to ask you to come and make a presentation here. So I really thank you on behalf of all our colleagues here at the conference here today, as well as everybody else who may watch this presentation later on and might be interested in the work that you're doing in Materia Verde, and also the more high level work that has come out in the white paper as well. So thank you once again, and grateful for the time and information and everything that you shared with us.
Thanks,
thank you. So tomorrow is our final day of this 5-day event, and we have a very interesting group of people tomorrow. Three innovators who have worked on alternatives. Two people who have worked on alternatives to packaging and tableware. So there's one lady, Pushpa Lakshmi from Madurai. She has developed alternatives to bioplastics, and we will understand why bioplastics are not what is it that is preventing bioplastics to become viable, and therefore what are the alternatives that she's working on. She has an organization called Eco Kadai, which is based in Madurai. They have a very interesting proposition about bringing circularity within their own framework as well. How can the products that they produce be brought back and for recycling and so on. So she's our first speaker. Then we have Shashank Nimkar from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. He's a graduate he's a design graduate from the prestigious National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. And he's working in the space of ceramic waste, clay waste, ceramic, a lot of waste that is going on. How can that waste be recycled into good tableware? Again, if you will notice, his work is also connected with what we heard from Manisha Seth yesterday, in terms of, she spoke about the clay that is being retrieved from the Ganesh Chaturthi Visarjan, and finding that not all of it can be reused, but some of it can go into construction and so on. And if you remember, she had mentioned Shashank's name during her talk. So Shashank will be our second speaker for tomorrow, talking about ceramic waste and what he is doing with that. And last speaker we have is Shubham Tibrewal. He is actually taking the place of Ved Krishna. Ved Krishna was to speak at our conference, but unfortunately he's not available because of some travel that he's involved in. So another senior colleague of his, Shubham Tibrewal, will be speaking. Shubham and Ved actually run a company called Taka, which is actually a global supplier of biomaterial packaging solutions. And in addition to that, they also have a tableware brand that they have launched. Paka operates out of Ayodhya, and from a place where a lot of sugarcane waste gets generated, and we will learn from them how they have created this entire enterprise. What was the science behind the packaging materials that they've created? And in a sense, it's a very interesting case of. So we had today an example of a rural entrepreneur from Jalgaon trying to create an enterprise. And if you remember some of the last things he said is, even I can create an organization that could become as big as a Reliance or something in India, which gives the sort of indication that you can create something very big. And here's an example of a biomaterials packaging solutions industry, which is actually a global supplier. And we'll understand what does it take to become a global supplier, a multinational company in this thing, working in the green space, the bioeconomy space. So I look forward to having you all for tomorrow session as well. And hopefully we will also get to learn a lot more from these three individuals who are speaking to us. So with that, we'll bring today's session to a close. Thank you, all of you, for being with us. Thank you so much, Govinda Sonavane, for sharing your journey as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, and your biochar machines and the vermicompost sewing machines that you've developed and so on. Thank you so much, Joy, Daniel from Aurangabad, for sharing your vision of creating a circular rural economy and how you visualize that as a way to, stop what is actually happening in Marathwada and many other parts of this country. And thank you again, Maya, for sharing your insights into the global economy, global circular bioeconomy, and also the work that you are trying to do with biomaterials in Goa. So with that, we'll come to a close for today and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you.